to this real, can realize our whole being in this true Lord of our being, can give up our personality to and into this one real person, merge our ever dispersed and ever converging mental activities into His plenary light, offer up our errant and struggling will and energies into His vast, luminous, and undivided will. At once renounce and satisfy all our dissipated outward moving desires and emotions in the plenitude of His self-existent bliss. This is the world teacher, of whose eternal knowledge all other highest teaching is but the various reflection and partial word. This the voice to which the hearing of our soul has to awaken.
Thank you. So now we'll start today's. Who is Neha? Acha, somebody, Shweta must have recommended. All right. So we will begin with the second paragraph today. Harshita, would you like to read? Harshita?
Yes, Bhaiya. Sorry, there is some internet issue here. So I'm
No problem.
reconnecting. So that's something.
Would you like to read the second paragraph?
Yes. Can you tell me from where?
Arjuna, the
Arjuna?
disciple, yes.
Sure. Arjuna, the disciple who receives his initiation on the battlefield, is a counterpart of this conception. He is the type of the struggling human soul who has not yet received the knowledge, but has grown fit to receive it by action in the world, in a close companionship, and an increasing nearness to the higher and divine self in humanity. There is a method of explaining the Gita in which not only this episode, but the whole Mahabharata is turned into an allegory of the inner life and has nothing to do with our outward human life and action, but only with the battles of the soul and the powers that strive within us for possession. That is a view which the general character and the actual language of the epic does not justify, and if pressed, would turn the straightforward philosophical language of the Gita into a constant, laborious, and somewhat puerile mystification. The language of the Veda and part at least of the Puranas is plainly symbolic, full of figures and concrete representations of things that lie behind the wheel. But the Gita is written in plain terms and profess to solve the great ethical and spiritual difficulties which the life of man raises, and it will not to go behind this plain language and thought and rest them to the service of our fancy. But there is this much of truth in the view that the setting of the doctrine, though not symbolical, is certainly typical, as indeed the setting of such a discourse as the Gita must necessarily be if it is to have any relation at all with that which it frames. Arjuna, as we have seen, is the representative man of a great world struggle and divinely guided movement of men and nations. In the Gita, he typifies the typifies the human soul of action brought face to face through that action in its highest and most violent crisis with the problem of human life and its apparent incompatibility with the spiritual state or even with a purely ethical ideal of perfection.
Right. Thank you. So Arjuna, the disciple who receives his initiation on the battlefield. Now, normally, initiation is received, in some temple or some uh, Gurukul or ashram or some such setting. But in this case, the human disciple, Arjuna, is receiving his initiation on the battlefield. I might just take the opportunity to say here that, basically, initiation is Shakti Path, literally means the falling of the Shakti. Pata means Girna, to fall. And basically, the Guru who is spiritually charged, so he sort of makes fall some of his Shakti on the disciple and opens the door or opens the way. Mother, about her, it is famous. Those who know about the ashram, that a lot of people who would meet her first time, so, their head would be placed in her lap or some such thing. But basically, she would look into the eyes. She would look into the eyes and penetrate, penetrate, penetrate till she reached the depth. In some cases, she found it difficult. And the soul being found in the depths, it would come to the surface. And therefore, it would be a true rebirth. Now, why I am saying this is because if one wants to feel this Shakti, of course, one can feel it in the book, Essays on the Gita that we are reading, but just in the Mool Sanskrit of the Gita, the original text, simply reading a few verses can initiate you, can give that Shakti path to you. It is something so amazing, and especially if you memorize and chant it from memory, merely reciting 7 or 8 verses even can instantly connect you with that Shakti, and that, it sort of, how to put it, switches on that fountain of delight within your inner being. At least for me, it is a constant experience for many years. So sorry to stop here for such a long period, but I thought this was a important point to make. So Arjuna, the disciple who receives his initiation on the battlefield, is a counterpart of this conception. Of which conception? The conception of the divine teacher. He is a counterpart. Counterpart is something that completes the thing. Like in a cricket match, one captain is the counterpart of the other captain, that way. So if the divine teacher is so divine, basically, then what are the qualifications needed by the human disciple who is a fit recipient for the Gita, right? So several times in this context, in this series, I have quoted this verse from the Gita, maybe in the last class also. 4.3, the second half. Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. Krishna says this to Arjuna. Because you are my bhakta as well as my sakha, that is why I am revealing this greatest secret to you. Sri Aurobindo says in his Bengali writings on the Gita that there were so many other people who were great in their own way. Vidur was great in Niti, and Yudhishthir was great in Dharma, Bhishma was great in some other thing, Karna was great, etc. But it was Arjuna who was chosen. And why was he chosen? And the one reason that he gives is that the level of surrender that he had towards Krishna, that nobody else had. That level of surrender. Okay. Now his friendship with him, his close relationship with him, and all that may have helped, but the main thing is surrender. And this, just to remember this when we are thinking of the Gita, to develop this bhava of a bhakta, and more important actually is the sakha, make the divine your friend. Okay. Again, 5.29, he says, Suhridam sarva bhutanam. When you have found me when you have known me, sorry, as the friend of all beings, right? Jnatva mam shanti mrichati. The last verse of the 5th chapter. Somebody was raising a hand in between? Or was it a false thing? Okay, all right. So, okay. He is the type of the struggling human soul who has not yet received the knowledge, but has grown fit to receive it by action in the world. Now, just to pause. The Gita is given to a man of action. Okay, please remember this. Gita does allow sannyas, as I have said earlier, and the Gita says it is allowed, but the Gita is chiefly for men of action who offer their work to the divine, ultimately their whole being to the divine, and by that surrender become united with the divine, dwell in him, live for him, and become dynamos of that divine electricity, as Sri Aurobindo says, and send it pulsating through the world. This is the recipient of the Gita. This is the person, the Karma Yogi, he who is able to offer his action to the divine, for whom basically the Gita is meant. Again, it is the yoga of the Rajarshis, the king sages. Okay. Even Sri Aurobindo's point, not very corrected directly, but in the 4th chapter of the Mother, of not relinquishing the money power, but conquering it for the divine. Of course, king doesn't mean only wealth. King means basically lordship and control and all that. The Kshatriya Dharma is explained in the 18th chapter in one verse, what it means. But basically, the point being here that how has he grown fit to receive it? By action in the world. Okay. Here I might say that as to Sri Aurobindo, whose book we are reading, and everything. So, what does he say in the Uttar Para speech? He placed the Gita in my hands and I was able to do the sadhana of the Gita, right? But what was he? And he says to Dilip Kumar Roy later, I was never a philosopher. He was not a philosopher. He developed into a philosopher later on. That is another thing. But that is through his yogic development. But at the time when he read the Gita and practiced the yoga of the Gita in the jail, what was he chiefly? He was chiefly a politician doing ghoram karma, planning revolutionary activities. So this has to be clear that the fit recipient of the Gita is somebody who has prepared himself for that knowledge by action in the world. Again, the first step, core of the teaching ka last paragraph is karma yoga. The first step is karma yoga. Gita is not in the Gita in the true sense is not for somebody who is afraid of action. Okay. Mother says that only those who love work, only those people can be truly happy. Okay. So I'll not stay on this point further. I guess the point is made already. Why I'm saying this also, I might add just here. See, India as a whole, if we see, we should not flatter ourselves unnecessarily. There is so much tamas in the country as a whole. If we just see the character of the nation, of course, it is changing now. The 200 years of the British, this thing, subjugation, and this, it has blunted our vital. It has made us just subjugated, and that tamas is so present. I mean, I can say something here. It is nice actually. Swami Chinmayanand, one of those who devoted his entire life to the Gita practically, he said that it is going to take 3 generations for this tamas to go away completely from India. It has seeped right into the roots. So, because of that tamas, we have this thought phobia at times. And basically, there is not this impulse to act. We find other races, European races, Americans, etc. They are much more, they are much more active that way. So, I mean, first thing, Vivekananda, ज़्यादा नहीं बोलना है. Vivekananda would say at times that, do not make this, इनको गीता मत पढ़ाओ, इनको football खिलाओ and make them eat meat, because what they need is rajas, right? So I think enough has been said on this point. Now to continue. But has grown fit to...
Anmol, just one
Yes,
point.
yes.
Anmol, just one
Yes,
point.
yes.
So he says here, I'm just reading again.
Yes.
He is the type of the struggling human soul
Yes.
who has not yet received the knowledge but has
Yes.
grown fit to
Grown
receive
fit
it.
to receive it, yes. By
So
action
would
in
it
the
be
world,
a person? Yeah,
Yeah.
would it be right to say that these people are of a sattvic bent when he
Yes.
says that they are fit to receive it?
Yes. The word Arjuna, in fact, means Sattvic. Arjuna means the white one, and white is the color of the Sattva Guna. Shvetashvatara Upanishad, one of the major Upanishads, it assigns colors to gunas. Sattva is assigned white, Rajas is assigned red, and Tamo Guna is assigned the black color. So, abhi wo usme there is going to come one sentence or 2 sentences where the meaning of the word Arjuna is described. And Sri Aurobindo says that Arjuna is true to his name only to this extent. So, you have already caught the point. You have already anticipated what he is going to say. Wonderful, right? So, he has grown fit to receive it by action in the world, in a close companionship and an increasing nearness to the higher and divine self, capital S, in humanity. What is meant is obviously Krishna. He's a very close companion of Krishna. They are the best of friends. They are even related that way because he is the husband of his cousin sister Subhadra. The age gap between them is not that much, etc., etc. So, in all possible social ways and all that, they are very close friends and like brothers and all that, right? So, Arjuna has become fit to receive. Okay. And the key point here is again action in the world. That is how one becomes fit to receive the knowledge of the Gita. Yes, Yogesh ji?
Yeah, perfect. This makes complete sense. Thanks.
All right, all right. So we continue? Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. If others could also switch on their videos, it would be easier for me. As of now, I am able to only see Harshita. It is easier. Not if the bandwidth is an issue or something, no problem. But if I can see other faces, it makes it makes it more alive and it helps me basically. So there is a method of explaining the Gita in which not only this episode, but the whole Mahabharata is turned into an allegory of the inner life and has nothing to do with our outward human life and action, but only with the battles of the soul and the powers that strive within us for possession. So sometimes the five Pandavas, they are called the five Indriyas, and such examples and allegories are given. But Sri Aurobindo will basically almost dismiss this point that the Gita is not to be taken only as an inner allegory. Okay, it has its importance, this point that he will cover, but it is not certainly to be taken that Gita keval inner cheez hai. It has got nothing to do with the outer facts of the Kurukshetra war. This Sri Aurobindo totally disagrees with. All right. So once again, there is a method of explaining the Gita in which not only this episode, Mane the Gita, but the whole Mahabharata is turned into an allegory. Allegory is a parable. It's a story with some symbols and figures. All right. Of the inner life and has nothing to do with our outward human life and action. This is, in fact, Mahabharata is itihasa. Itiha asa. So it happened. So where is the question of not relating to the external life? Okay. Just because, the Western historians call it mythology, it doesn't become mythology. It is itihasa. The right word is itihasa. Iti means thus, ha means it, asa means, past tense hota hai, as dhatu ka, so it happened. This is the derivation of the word itihasa. All right. So, but only with the battles of the soul and the powers that strive within us for possession. Okay. That is a view which the general character and the actual language of the epic does not justify. And if pressed, would turn the straightforward philosophical language of the Gita. As I said earlier, Upanishads also teach philosophy, but they teach it not in such a straightforward language. Their language is vibrating at a higher level. The Gita is also regarded as a 13th Upanishad, but the language of the Gita is also intellectual to a great extent and therefore closer to us. Okay, all those who have, for example, studied the Isha Upanishad would understand what I am saying, right? The Isha Upanishad as explained by Sri Aurobindo. So the language of the Gita, straightforward philosophical language of the Gita, into a constant, laborious and somewhat puerile mystification. Puerile means childish, strong language. Okay? There is no need. Unnecessarily, you are making the labor to make it appear as if it is just an allegory of the inner life. It is not. Okay. Usme, the Pancha Pandavas are regarded sometimes as the five senses. Sometimes they would be regarded simply as gods who have come down, and gods, are obviously free. So all their suffering and all this is not, real and all that. All those ideas, if God comes on earth and takes a human body, he has to, even if God himself comes, like Rama or Krishna or Sri Aurobindo, or whichever other great form of God, he also has to go through the experience of human life in earnest. And the external life circumstances are as important as the inner life circumstances. The external are a reflection of the inner, of his inner struggles and battles, and how he leads the evolution upward, right? The avatar. So I continue.
As you say this, Anmol,
Yes, bhai.
I'm reminded of that, how can he cure the ills who has in
Exactly.
Savitri,
Exactly.
never felt the ills. You know, the
Exactly.
avatar who descends.
Exactly.
He's the example is of Jesus Christ, but
Exactly. So the external facts are real. And as I said, यहाँ पे तो श्री अरविंदो ने महाभारत बोला, and then an episode, Mahabharata is itihasa. So it happened. Okay. It is the history of India recorded by Indians. Literally, what does Mahabharata mean? The great India. So it is our history which we have written, our forefathers have written. And it's such a huge volume. If you get the Gita Press thing, it is 6 volumes plus an appendix called Harivansha, right? Khila Grantha bolte hain usko. So, yes, into a somewhat constant, laborious, and somewhat puerile mystification. The word puerile here is deliberately strong, childish. The Gita also uses this language, when it wants to say that those who differentiate between Sankhya and Yoga too much, they are to be regarded as children. Sankhya Yogau prithak balah pravadanti na panditah. Sankhya is the more intellectual aspect of the being. Yoga is the more practical aspect. Can you divide your intellect and practicality into two parts and say that this leads to something else and this leads to something else? No. You are making a stupid and, unnatural division in your own personality and being, right? Anyway, so the language of the Veda and part at least of the Puranas is plainly symbolic. Now, since the word Puranas was mentioned here, we know the language of the Vedas is symbolic. In fact, in the human cycle, Sri Aurobindo speaks of different ages of humanity. The age of the Vedas is what he calls the symbolic age. I actually my study of that book is not that great, so I would not be able to tell the exact chronology. If somebody can help me out, I'll be grateful. But the words that he gives for the different ages are symbolic, which is the Vedic age, followed by, I think what he uses the word is conventional. Okay. Then he says comes the typal age. Then he says comes the age of reason. Okay. The subjective age. And then that is followed in the order by the spiritual age. I'll find out the exact quotation from the human cycle and post it. See, this is the thing now, that when essays on the Gita was being written or when the Arya was being written, all these books were being simultaneously, they were coming out. So somebody who was reading the Arya originally 100 years ago, he was in the same issue reading the human cycle also, reading the synthesis of yoga also, reading the life divine also. So all the different parts of his mind, they were being catered to simultaneously. And for 1 month, he was basically reading that and waiting for the next issue. That was also very deliberate. So that is, saying this is the nature of Sri Aurobindo's works, that you have to have a basic idea of all of them in order to have the integral and complete knowledge. All right. So yes. So the language of the Veda and part at least of the Puranas is plainly symbolic. Now I had written here an example, since the word Puranas was mentioned, and it's a very good, and Indians are so familiar with that example. जो वो समुद्र मंथन की story है. Okay. What does samudra mean here? Can somebody tell me? पुराण की समुद्र मंथन की story में what does samudra exactly mean? And what does manthan mean? If not, then I can share what I understand. Anybody? It's a open and free session, very informal. Okay. So Samudra, literally ocean basically, it refers to the inconscient. Okay. See, we are all Hindus here. Most of us are Hindus here. So if we get the connect between that image and the idea of evolution and involution, it will be a great help for us. So the Samudra is basically the inconscient. Okay. In the Rig Veda, it is called Apraketam Salilam. 10th mandal mein, this is the term. Apraketam Salilam. Apraketam mein Ketu means perception. A and pra are prefixes, wo negate karne ke liye. Basically, it means inconscient. And Salilam means ocean. Now, in the Vedic literature, this terminology of oceans and waters and all this maritime vocabulary is very much there. Now, why it is conceived as such? Maybe because we had a long coastline. I don't know. They were seeing a lot of waters, rivers, etc. I don't know exactly. What now it is called plains. The theosophists
actually,
in modern times.
probably, Anmol Bhaiya, probably it's because we were a Jambu Dweep, no, at that time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Jambudvipa, I don't know whether we were completely an island. That would have to take the वो geology और उसके हिसाब से बहुत पहले जाना पड़ेगा. But even the
अच्छा.
peninsula as such is having a very big coastline. Anyway, this is just a
That
minor
is
point.
bit.
This is a minor
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So now आजकल के टाइम में ये जो planes of consciousness बोलते हैं ना, PLANE. So this word is coined by the theosophists actually. Now when you come to think of why do they call it planes? Because those people who wrote it वहां पे जहां पे वो रहते हैं वहां पे mostly it is planes. You know, it's a very simple thing to understand. Anyway, to come back to the main point, the symbolic language of the Puranas. So it is called Samudra Manthan bolte hain. Samudra means the inconscient. Okay. What Sri Aurobindo calls the inconscient, and Manthan means the evolution. So basically what it means is कि उसमें वो इन्वोल्यूशन का बात नहीं है, या अगर होगा पुराण में तो आई डोंट नो, बट मंथन डेफिनेटली मीन्स एवोल्यूशन, एंड समुद्र मंथन माने everything is coming out of that inconscient. Everything is coming out of that inconscient. If we see initially उसमें से विष निकल के आता है. So the earlier stages of humanity, when the humanity is not at a very evolved level, so the asuric and the rakshasic and all those lower elements are there, right? And then as it progresses, it becomes better and better. Finally, Samudra Manthan mein, what is the last thing that comes out? Amritam. Amritam. Amritam is a synonym for Ananda in the Veda. Okay. And in this evolution also, terrestrial evolution, what is the thing that is promised ultimately? It is Ananda. Now the fourth level has been out evolved. What was the first? Physical. Initially, there was total chaos, total inconscient. Okay, I will not go too much वरना essays on the Gita का theme miss हो जाएगा. Then comes the physical, then the vital, the life, then the mind, and now Sri Aurobindo and Mother's mission was to bring out the fourth element, what they have called the suprament, right? That is followed by Ananda, that is the culmination. That is what is called Amritam in the Samudra Manthan story, right? So basically, this is an example of how the language of the Puranas is symbolic. And I mean, sometimes we find this challenging, कि what we see in the mythological serials that we see on television or stories that we hear, etc. So many of those things are symbolic. And sometimes we have to make an effort to relate this to Sri Aurobindo psychology and the way he has explained yoga and all that. But I would say that that effort is necessary perhaps for connecting the Hindu side in us to what Sri Aurobindo has said. But if it's taking a lot of energy and time, I would say try and make more effort and put more energy into understanding Sri Aurobindo's works. Kirit Joshi, for example, was known to say that whatever is there in the Vedas, Upanishads, and Gita, all that is there in Sri Aurobindo's works, and what is not even there in the Puranas, even that is there. So it's a very, very complete literature. And in terms of your psychological development, nothing will be lacking if you apply yourself. Okay, this was one small point which I needed to make. So the language of
Anmol,
yes, yes, please.
yeah, this inconscient that you talked about, which
Yes.
is the ocean,
Yes.
Samudra Manthan ka,
Yes.
is the Brahm the same thing or Brahm is different?
Okay. So Brahman is the term used in the Upanishads for that which alone is. Okay. Ekameva dvitiyam Brahma nanyat kinchid asti. Okay. That Brahman, आप अगर उस ब्रह्म का initial poise assume करें, which is that of Satchidananda. Okay. When this Satchidananda progressively involves itself, first it becomes, धीरे धीरे करके वो narrow होता है. First it becomes supermind, then it becomes mind, then it becomes vital, and there are layers and layers and gradations on all these planes. If you read Savitri, the vital is not just one plane. There are several planes and several lokas in the vital. There are vital gods and all that. Even in the subtle physical, there are different kinds of beings. So this is the involution. This is called the involution. Involution का मतलब होता है self hiding. You are making yourself more and more gross. You are hiding your infinity from yourself basically. And finally, the net result of this involution process is what is called the inconscient. So inconscient is also Brahman, but they are not like synonyms that. You can say that is the
so the
inconscient
final
Brahman.
state,
You can call
the
it
final
the
state
inconscient
where
Brahman.
everything is, so when everything is
Brahman.
hidden, it becomes inconscient. That is,
that is
Samudra.
the place from where the evolution begins.
Perfect.
And just
Thanks.
it's very important.
Anmol,
This is not a creation of Sri Aurobindo. Okay, this idea of inconscient and evolution, it is there in the Veda. The inconscient is there called Apraketam Salilam. in the Puranas, the Vishnu Puran, for example, it is called Samudra Manthan, or Samudra inconscient है और Manthan evolution है. So, sometimes otherwise people think कि ये श्री अरविंदो क्या नई चीज बोल रहे हैं, where is it there in the tradition? So it is very important to register this point in our Hindu minds. Yes, Dhaval bhai.
So to add what you just said, when you just said it's a self-diminution of the light, I'm
Yes.
reminded of Life Divine, where the consciousness is held back in the inconscient and only
Yes.
the Shakti is operating. So consciousness, if
Yes.
you will see mathematically, is inversely proportional to Shakti.
Exactly.
So at the highest state, consciousness is there, Shakti is held back, and the
Yes.
inconscient, the Shakti is there, consciousness is held back.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
slowly
progressive
evolution is the
consciousness.
process of releasing the consciousness.
And truly speaking, consciousness comes with the arrival of man, because it becomes self-conscious. The animals are also conscious, but they are not self-conscious. They cannot
Yeah.
feel that they are evolving, no such thing. So truly speaking, the mind is synonymous with consciousness in that sense.
Yeah. So that is where we have this self-reflection capability. Otherwise, we wouldn't have
Exactly.
this nature
Exactly.
of self-feedback, which
Exactly.
actually is
Exactly.
being mistaken with the AI thing right now.
वो
It is
तो
not intelligent. वो तो जाने दो. Let's not go there.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Okay. So we'll come back to the text. The language of the Veda and part at least of the Puranas is plainly symbolic, full of figures and concrete representations of things that lie behind the veil. If you want to see what lies behind the veil, for example, you are welcome to read the book 2 of Savitri, in which all these worlds and there are 15 cantos in that. Okay, so life ke there are almost 3 cantos. Mind worlds ke there are almost 3 cantos again. Subtle physical ke liye there is 1 canto. Subtle physical is the plane where Sri Aurobindo is residing right now. That is what Mother told. That is the permanent dwelling place of Sri Aurobindo, right? So what lies behind the veil? That is revealed in Savitri in detail and in English. You don't need to know Sanskrit and read the Puranas and all that. This is one of the greatest blessings of Sri Aurobindo, that all these secrets of creation and all these hidden worlds, he has revealed to us them in English. Savitri is at once a Puran and an Upanishad and a Ved and whatnot, right? So, to continue. But the Gita is written in plain terms. Thank God for that. Okay. But the Gita is written in plain terms and professes to solve the great ethical and spiritual difficulties which the life of man raises. Okay. It does solve them. गीता के बारे में तो कहा जाता है इनफैक्ट कि if nothing else, if you just chant the Gita with sincerity, you become like a lotus leaf in water, padma patram ivambhasa. You become untouched by the ignorance of the world. You become untouched. That is the power of the Gita, right? So to solve the great ethical and spiritual difficulties which the life of man raises, and it will not do to go behind this plain language and thought and rest them to the service of our fancy, right? Rest means basically to twist something or to turn it to fit it to your own purposes. And see, even it's slightly humorous the way Sri Aurobindo is writing here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fancy.
It will not do to go behind this plain language and thought and rest them to the service of our fancy. Plain terms में लिखी है, it solves your ethical and spiritual problems. Use it to solve the problem of human life and get liberated and act from a divine consciousness. This is what the Gita promises. Okay.
Because many these days, you have those, not these days, even much earlier, those kathakars who would then attach their own fancies and adjectives
Exactly.
to the
Exactly. You will find
Pandavas, as you
almost
mentioned.
find almost none of that in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those commentaries are very different and hard to
Exactly.
grasp also.
Exactly. ठीक है, they also do a service to the society in a certain way, but if you want the real stuff, then that real stuff is basically, in books like Essays on the Gita. But there is this much of truth in the view. In what? There is this much truth किस चीज में? In the fact that the Gita is symbolic, या उसकी जो language है वो inner है and all that. So there is this much truth in the view that the setting of the doctrine though not symbolical, is certainly typical. Okay? Peculiar is something typical. It's a type. Arjuna represents a type, a Kshatriya, a Rajarshi, that sort of thing. Somebody who is a leader. In the 3rd chapter of the Gita, he's called a Shrestha. So somebody who is, one of the leading men of that age, like that. Okay. Certainly typical, as indeed the setting of such a discourse as the Gita must necessarily be, if it has to have any relation at all with that which it frames. Okay. ये point हमने पहले भी cover किया था कि a teaching so profound and so universal and so uplifting as the Gita requires an equally important and equally critical, basically, context and occasion. Okay, so a similar point he is making here in this sentence. Arjuna, as we have seen, is the representative man of a great world struggle and divinely guided movement of men and nations. In the Gita, he typifies the human soul of action, brought face to face through that action in its highest and most violent crisis with the problem of human life. Human life is a problem. Our life is a paradox with God for key. This is a quotation from Savitri. Our life is a paradox with God for key. It is only the unthinking minds or those whose intelligence has not been awakened yet to that point who are happy to go through life as it is. Otherwise, it can be, बाल नोचने को मन करता है. It can be so paradoxical at times, right? So the problem of human life and its apparent incompatibility with the spiritual state or even with a purely ethical ideal of perfection. वही ना कि purely ethical ideal of perfection or spiritual state, how can you reconcile that with such a violent action that Arjuna has to do? This is what the Gita professes to solve, this problem of human life. And as it is said here, he receives his initiation on the battlefield. I mean, what more amazing thing could be said here, right? So anybody has any comments? Those who want to say something, discuss anything? Who is Gita? Okay. Okay. No, nobody. Shall we read the next paragraph?
So just one thing, I
Yes,
just
please.
recalled
Yes,
that
please.
problem
Yes.
of human life and its apparent incompatibility, that in Life Divine we have the 2 chapters, right? The materialist denial and
The refusal of the ascetic.
refusal of the ascetic. That
Yes.
exactly is this line. It's very highly elaborated in the Life Divine as chapters.
Exactly. More matlab actually uska that materialistic enjoyment and the renunciation of the ascetic, that is also reconciled by the Isha, tena tyaktena bhunjitha. So it reconciles renunciation and enjoyment. But obviously it is so sutratmak. It is just 18 verses.
Yeah.
And of course the Gita does it. Somebody said that 18 verses jo Isha Upanishad ke hain, the Gita has expanded into 18 chapters. Swami Tejomayananda of the Chinmay Mission. I heard him. It seemed to me quite a valid point actually. Why not? This is one way of looking at it. The 18 verses of the Isha have been sort of elaborated and synthesized and all that was lacking in the Isha. For example, the idea of the Purushottama is not really there in the Isha. उसमें खाली वो सपर्यगात शुक्रमकायम अव्रणम वो खाली स करके छोड़ देते हैं, but there is no elaboration of what that is. Sa means he, but who that he is, how you can relate to that he through bhakti, and only by bhakti you can enter into his consciousness. All that was left for the Gita to be dealt with, right?
Yeah, so this kind of becomes a more recipist approach in that sense,
Exactly.
as compared to the sutras, as you mentioned, and
And-
also, but there is a line on supramental though, right? The covered with a lid, right?
That is there, but
Hiranmayena
where is the
Patrena.
explanation of the Purushottama? Purushottama,
yes.
वो कहाँ है उसमें? Elements are there, no doubt. Element of karma is there, kurvanne veha karmani. Element of jnana is there in the vidya is there. Element of bhakti is there in the last shloka, where they say agne naya supatharaye asman and all that. वो है, but it is so short, right?
Yeah, very terse, very
Verses
terse.
further elaborated into 18 chapters of the Gita, 700 verses, and then further now we do not have to deal with the 700 verses of the Gita, the Sanskrit text. Sri Aurobindo has given us this beautiful and crystal clear essays on the Gita in English, a modern language, which we can understand far better than we can understand Sanskrit, right? So that way. So we'll like to
Anmol,
continue
just
with
one
Dhaval.
more point.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, in the previous paragraph, it
Yes.
ends with the last line, this the voice to which the hearing of our soul has to awaken.
Yes.
This
I'm
means
showing
in
it.
this whole journey, the
Yes.
voice, what I want you to just elaborate is that this means that just like Arjun has Krishna, the real knowledge for each of us as aspirants is to always invoke the voice within to give us what is it that we need to do. It appears needs to come from the voice to which the hearing of our soul has to awake.
The
Is
voice,
that right?
the inner voice within you. Okay. The stress so far, as you have seen, even in the avatar, has been on the eternal incarnation, the inner divinity in man. And that inner divinity never sleeps. Atandritaha is the word used in the Gita. I work sleeplessly. So he is guiding you and commanding you and all that. The divine within us is doing constantly without stop. Satatam jisko bolte hain Gita mein. Non-stop he is doing it. We have to start listening to it. And how to listen to it? I mean, the ways yoga and whatever way of yoga appeals to you. Now, important point here. If I am saying again and again, first step is karma yoga, second step jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, etc. Fine, that is the way Sri Aurobindo has explained, and that is the natural way in which the yoga becomes wider and wider. But what if bhakti appeals to somebody more? Should he necessarily and forcibly put himself into karma? No, sir, not at all. Sri Aurobindo is very practical. He says you have to enter the kingdom of the divine. By what door you enter, it does not matter. Once you enter into that kingdom, you can explore it fully by practicing other yogas and uniting the other parts of your being. But the main thing is to have a breakthrough into that kingdom of God. Whatever makes you have that breakthrough into the kingdom of God, have that breakthrough into that kingdom by whatever means. For somebody, bhakti can be a very powerful way of entering into that. Simply, जैसे मैंने बोला था कि वो नारायण, simply the japa of that divine name can be an entry point for you to be able to start hearing that inner voice. I mean, I don't want to go into very personal things. Otherwise, I can share that when I first started listening it, quite clearly as compared to before in lifetime, it would not be appropriate. It would become too personal. Basically by a kind of bhakti yoga and basically through a sort of kirtana constantly. Nama, the name of the divine has tremendous power. A lot of the people here in the ashram, especially from the Odisha, they do simply the chanting of the mother's name. Ma. This is one of their main sadhanas. And they are so full of devotion and so full of energy to do the mother's work here. So, and simply because it is a simple practice, it does not mean that it is not efficient. It is very efficient. It is our ego which thinks that Nama Japa is not so, efficacious. Anything, whatever works for you. One has to experiment with oneself also to some extent. All right. So 8:47. We started at around 8:05 or so. We have around 18 minutes. So Dhaval Bhai has read, Harshita has read. Now we have to read the third paragraph here. Who would like to read? I want basically everybody to read so that everybody gets the benefit of, this mantra recitation basically. Pranabda, would you like to read? Pranabda? No. Archana ji is here. Archana ji, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please, Archana ji. Arjuna is the fighter.
Arjuna is the fighter in the chariot with the divine Krishna as his charioteer. In the Veda also, we have this image of the human soul and the divine riding in one chariot through a great battle to the goal of a high aspiring effort. But there it is a pure figure and symbol. The divine is there, Indra, the master of the world of light and immortality, the power of divine knowledge which descends to the aim of the human seeker, battling with the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality. The battle is with spiritual enemies who bar the way to the higher world of our being, and the goal is that plane of vast being resplendent with the light of the supreme truth and uplifted to the conscious immortality of the perfected soul of which Indra is the master. The human soul is Kutsa, he who constantly seeks the seer knowledge, as his name implies, and he is the son of Arjuna or Arjuni, the white one, child of Switra, the white mother. He is, that is to say, the sattvic or purified and light filled soul which is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge. And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, the own home of Indra, the human Kutsa, has grown into such an exact likeness of his divine companion that he can only be distinguished by Sachi, the wife of Indra, because she is truth consciousness. The parable is evidently of the inner life of man. It is a figure of the human growing into the likeness of the eternal divine by the increasing illumination of knowledge. But the Gita starts from action, and Arjuna is the man of action, not of knowledge, the fighter, never the seer or the thinker.
Thank you. So once again, with the last sentence of this paragraph, the point is re-emphasized that Gita is for those who want to solve the problems of the world, who basically care about the world and are striving to make it perfect. It is not just for the seer or thinkers also do it, no doubt, but it is the men of action who bring about a change in the world. And even if you have attained a spiritual poise, we see so many of the gurus even today, they are doing works of charity or works of education. And actively, Sri Aurobindo Society, for example, it is engaging in so many things like that. So that action orientedness, this is the constant theme of the Gita from the beginning till the end. And this will be the theme of essays on the Gita also from the beginning till the end. Right? So we go through this. Arjuna is the fighter in the chariot with the divine Krishna as his charioteer. So the name of Krishna, Partha Sarathi. This name is quite, not common, but it is there in South India. In North we find it less, but in South India it's quite common. Partha Sarathi, right? In the Veda also, we have this image of the human soul and the divine riding in one chariot through a great battle to the goal of a high aspiring effort. Okay. Now, which mandala and exactly where it is, I have not made the effort to find out. But Puruskar, the problem with the Veda is actually, unless you can find it in Sri Aurobindo's translation or Kapali Shastri, for example, one cannot really rely on the translation because the Vedic Sanskrit is so old. There are bound to be some or the other distortion in the translation. Not always, but it is likely. That is why actually I try to avoid reading the English translations. I have the one that I know complete and most which I will read one day is that of R.L. Kashyap. Just for information sake, I am saying R.L. Kashyap. He's no more. He was a scientist of some sort, a great actually man, and he has written it. He did it under the auspices of the Sri Aurobindo Kapali Shastri Institute in Bangalore. And that is like he has done the full 10 books of the Veda, he has translated into English. And obviously he was open to Sri Aurobindo and all that, right? So, but there it is a pure figure and symbol. As said earlier, the language of the Veda is mainly symbolic and it uses figurative language, all right? The divine is there, Indra. Okay? We already know that in the Vedic pantheon, Indra is supreme, but in the Puranic pantheon, Indra is superseded by the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Right? You could say that in the Bhagavad Puran, even they are superseded by Shri Krishna. So, for example, in the 11th chapter, it comes Gariyase Brahmanopyadi Kartre. ये एक phrase आता है. Okay? You are greater even than the Adikarta Brahma. Gariyase, greater, Brahmanaha api, even than Brahma, Adikartre. Even than the Adikarta Brahma, you are greater. Right? Yes, Dhavalji?
Anmol Bhaiya, so the problem here is that Indra, when mentioned in different like in Veda versus Purana versus you said Bhagavad Puran. So all this sheer confusion for me at least, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Let's leave it. Let's leave it. Let's stick to the text of the
No, not in that sense. I'm saying
Bolliye.
it's thanks for elucidating it, because all this
Yeah,
confusion
by the
always
way,
was there.
हाँ,
And then you plus on top of Indra, you have Varuna, Mitra, and all.
Indra,
That is also
Indra.
all are
Okay, let
symbols,
me
but
let me clarify in psychological terms. Indra means basically the divine mind. Okay, it means that mind becoming full of the divine light and energy. It basically means the divine mind. The word divine itself, it means light. It comes from the dhatu div. Div has the sense of light and play. Div dhatu का ये अर्थ होता है. Indra means basically an illumined mind. Okay. Vishnu. Vishnu means cosmic consciousness. That is what Vishnu stands for psychologically.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
कृष्णा जो भागवत मैंने यही तो सीक्वेंस दिया था कि वेद में
हाँ,
इंद्र, पुराण में इट इज ब्रह्मा विष्णु एंड शिवा, एंड in the Bhagavad Puran and the Bhagavad Gita it is Krishna, right? So Krishna stands for the Ananda, and he
so
stands for
that
that
means
totality. It is even beyond the cosmic consciousness. Krishna is even
ah,
transcendent. In the Gita he goes even beyond the cosmic consciousness, right?
so that means there is a progressive evolution there
Yes,
also in the
exactly.
symbols.
That's what I'm trying to say. There is a progressive evolution even among the gods.
Hmm.
In fact, since it's an occasion to say this, otherwise बहुत ज़्यादा digress हो जाता है इधर-उधर. In volume 16, Hymns to the Mystic Fire, Sri Aurobindo says that in the Veda, Vishnu pretends to serve Indra, pretends to be subordinate to him, and he's called Upendra, Upa Indra. Upa means subordinate. Upendra means subordinate to Indra. Why? Why does Vishnu, who is actually a superior god, have to be subordinate to Indra in the Vedic times? For the simple reason that when the Vedic verses were given, at that time cosmic consciousness was not even in the dreams of humanity. तब वो अपने माइंड को ही डेवलप करके माइंड को ही क्लियर कर लें और वो सब कर लें, दैट वुड हैव बीन इनफ. Nobody was even aspiring that way. To the possibility of opening the cosmic consciousness as a whole for humanity was not there. So Vishnu has to wait his time, and when the Vishnu's time comes, then the Vishnu Puran is written, and then he takes his two place above Indra in the Trinity. That's what Sri Aurobindo explains. So obviously there is an evolution even among the gods. It's so beautiful, you know.
Anmol,
Yes, please.
yeah, this cosmic consciousness is Vishnu. Could you also say what Sri Aurobindo said about Brahma and Shiva?
Yes, I'll say. So Vishnu literally means cosmic consciousness in the Veda, okay, in the Veda. Otherwise, if you
Okay.
say the word Vishnu, it means the all pervading. जो विश धातु है, okay, अगर कोई चीज एंटर, we say प्रवेश है ना, प्रवेश, आवेश. So pra and a are prefixes. The dhatu is vish. व के ऊपर छोटी ई की मात्रा, then the षटकोण वाला श. Okay, so Vishnu literally means the all pervading.
Right.
Vishnu, that is what it literally, and cosmic consciousness is that which is all pervading, isn't it? So Vishnu in
Right.
the Veda means cosmic consciousness. Very important question. In fact, I was thinking of saying that. Good that you reminded me. So, in terms of Sat, Chit, Shakti, and Ananda, okay, the four main words, as we have been saying, these are the thing. These are the four words around which we should try to organize our knowledge. With due respect to the Veda, and this being given by them. So he says, Brahma is the eternal personality of Sat, existence. Okay. Vishnu is the eternal personality of consciousness. Shiva is the eternal personality of force. Krishna is the eternal personality of Anand. This is
Beautiful.
Now, I should add here that after these four sentences, there is a second part of the sentence. Vishnu is eternity and all that. But usme jayenge, there is less time. I want to finish this paragraph today. I will paste that full quotation on the group. If necessary, we can discuss it tomorrow. All
And
right?
also,
Thank
if you could paste the evolution which you just mentioned
I will do that. Can you,
of the
Dhawan bhai,
gods.
can you just put, आप just WhatsApp group पे लिख दीजिए कि paste this evolution thing, I will do it. Otherwise, I will listen.
मैं लिख देता हूँ, रिमाइंडर लिख देता
I
हूँ.
listen to the whole talk, और उसमें जहाँ पे भी I have said कि I will share this reference, or I feel this, if it is shared now, it can elaborate it more. I generally do that, given the time and all. Okay.
मैं कर देता हूँ, मैं अब
all
रिमाइंडर
right,
डाल ही
all
देता
right, all right, all right, all right. So now there is few points to cover in this. In the Veda also we have this image of the human soul and this, but there it is a pure figure and symbol. The divine is there, Indra, the master of the world of light and immortality. स्वर्ग का मतलब हम क्या समझते हैं? अमरत्व ना, where the immortal beings reside, right? The power of divine knowledge which descends to the aid of the human seeker. So for example, I mean, I can't help but give examples when they come like this. So in the record of yoga, I'll again share this, okay? At one page you find Sri Aurobindo, वो ऐसे वेदा पढ़ रहे हैं, इसको वो बोलते हैं, you know, at random when you open a page in a book, there is a word for this. The word is slipping my mind right now. Doesn't matter. When you randomly open a scripture in order to get help for where you are stuck right now. So he opens the Veda and he gets this verse of Indra and he uses this verse and he clears that spiritual obstacle. In Sri Aurobindo, he has noted this in the record of yoga. So something must have, fudged his mind or something, and he invokes Indra. जो इंद्र का thunderbolt होता है. What is that a sign of? You know, that lightning-like flashes of intuition which we get from the higher planes. This is the thunderbolt of Indra. This is the way these things have to be understood, right? So I continue. Divine knowledge which descends to the aid of the human seeker, battling with the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality. The battle is with spiritual enemies who bar the way to the higher world of our being. And the goal is that plane of vast being, resplendent with the light of the supreme truth. जहाँ पे vast word आया है, truth word आया है. So it is referring to the, what is called the Satyam, Ritam, Brihatam. The true, the right, the vast. This is the terminology. This is one of the names of the what Sri Aurobindo has called the supramental. It is called by different names in the Veda or the Puranas or the Upanishads. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is called Mahad Brahma. Basically, it is the total knowledge. Okay. So in the जो अभी reference है, it is called Satyam, Ritam, Brihatam. It is somewhere in the Atharva Veda. It's there in a footnote in the Life Divine. All right. So vast, being resplendent with the light of the supreme truth and uplifted to the conscious immortality of the perfected soul, of which Indra is the master. Now, what I had thought for this session, the examples and all, I will not be able to finish in the next 3 to 4 minutes. Am I allowed to extend this session today by around 5 minutes? Is that okay?
Please go ahead. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, please go ahead.
All right. So the mention here of the word spiritual enemies. Okay, this is important. Just as we should know who our friends are, we should also know who our enemies are, and especially these kinds who are subtle. I'll try to share this on the screen. This is from the Secret of the Veda. Okay, I'll read this because the shareware करने में time लगेगा. On the other hand, the demons who oppose them are all powers of division and limitation. Now their words, okay? Coverers. जो ढकते हैं. It's called vritra. Avrit karna, ढकना. From that the word vritra. Coverers. So when you feel that, something is covering you, when you're not able to recall something, for example, your memory has got covered. This is the action of vritra. And if you are following the Vedic yoga, you would call Indra, who is the Shatru of Vritra, Vritrahanta. And that Vritra would be killed and that memory would come back. This is just a rough example of this. So one word is coverers. Then tearers, जो फाड़ते हैं. So they, tear you, मतलब tearers, they split you. They cause division inside you. All these powers of division, okay? Devourers. When the light comes, these dark forces, they can just devour that energy. One has, to proceed on the path of yoga, one has to be aware of these beings. Of course, not give them too much importance. But, to be like that, वो जो कबूतर की तरह उसमें सर डाल करके बैठ जाना and thinking that nothing will happen, that's not going to work. You're going to be eaten alive. Okay? So, one has to know that these powers are there. At least be aware of it, that these subtle enemies are there. And of course, the focus should be on the divine and on Sri Aurobindo and Mother to protect us from these things and make us march forward. coverers, steerers, devourers, third word, confiners, anything that limits you. आप ये समझ के चलो, जो भी व्यक्ति आपको ये बोलता है कि तुम ये नहीं कर सकते, वो confiner है, वो आपका शत्रु है. He is a spiritual enemy. He is embodying that confiner energy. The truth is infinite by definition, and we are the truth. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. I cannot emphasize this enough. All right. So, coverers, tearers, devourers, confiners. Fifth word is dualizers. जो द्वैत create कर. Look at the word dualizer. Even dualizing is a spiritual enemy. Because the truth is one. Purusha Prakriti. Sankhya, I'm not saying that Sankhya is enemy. But that thing basically of the Purusha and Prakriti, and they are like two parallel lines which do not meet. That is what ultimately led to the Sannyaswad in India. And basically, it is the cause of the downfall of India. The intelligent people and the wise people running away from the world because they are thinking कि इसका तो कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. And let us seek our liberation in the infinite. So that dualizing thing, the truth is one. Those who dualize Mother and Sri Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo said, the Mother and I are one and equal. Equal also. कोई बड़ा छोटा नहीं है, दोनों equal हैं. Right? So dualizers. और last इसमें जो word है, obstructors. As their names indicate, powers that work against the free and unified integrality of the being. I am reading this from Secret of the Veda, page 46. Okay. Then these vritras, coverers, panis. Pani bolte hai chor ko, thief. So pan is the word for currency in the time of Chanakya. I saw this in the Chanakya series. Kasharpan usme bolte the. Bronze coin basically, right? So pan means currency, coin, money. Pani means the thief. That which is, devouring your energy, like that. So panis, atris. Atri ka mujhe, I don't know the English word. Rakshasas. Rakshasa means the devourer. Okay. Sambara, Vala, Namuchi, and then the Sikh are not Dravidian kings and gods, as European scholarship made us think, but they are our spiritual enemies. Okay, इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं जाना चाहिए, lest our attention is attracted too much towards these things, but it is at least necessary to know that these things are there, and to call the divine. And of course, the Gita demands Satata Yukta, always we should be in a state of prayer and worship and devotion and all that. So then you do not have the time, but then आप सब कुछ सही चल रहा है and suddenly you feel covered. What is happening, man? You must realize that this is an action of Vritra. This is a spiritual enemy. Yes, Dhaval bhai. Yes.
In ordinary life, right? This will take form of possession in some our people whom we interact on a on a daily basis. So that that acts as a barrier, wouldn't it be? Because in these days we don't have Rakshasas, you can't see it, right?
No. These are all inner things. Yeah, inner spiritual enemies. You can sometimes meet people, unki energy low hoti hai, ya something like this. They are embodying something negative. A contact with them, वो contact companion वाला बात इसमें आएगा कि how through the journey the two people they start becoming alike. So the importance of keeping the right kind of company, especially in yoga. What is meant here is not physical beings like very tall rakshasas or anything. What is meant is the
correct,
inner
symbolic.
spiritual.
Yeah, but inner spiritual things do try to manifest in the practical life in
Yes.
terms of our interactions, isn't it?
They
And
can, yes, of
within
course.
us also,
Yes.
also,
Yes. Yes.
both ways, right?
Yes.
So it's very difficult to, what you said rightly is that the one of the telltale sign is there is a sense of discomfort.
You
There
feel
is a sense of
depleted. You can feel depleted.
yes, the energy
आपकी
drains
जो
out.
see again that voice within the last sentence of the first paragraph, that voice within ना, it is constantly warning you. वो आपको
Yeah.
signs दे रहा है, अरे नहीं, something is wrong. You start feeling uncomfortable. Something in you
Yeah.
starts feeling a little restless when this kind of
Correct.
energy comes. Immediately, then you have to call the mother and call for her protection.
Yes.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Durga
And
is the
that
mother's
happens
power of protection. एक जगह लिखा है श्लोक.
Durga means fort, so it protects.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but also, it's not just true with living beings, but it's also true in spaces also. Like in certain spaces, if you enter, you feel it.
Yes. Yes.
negative and you just don't want to be there, you know.
Exactly. Which is why one should not go indiscriminately to all kinds of so-called religious places. One should have little discretion, little sense of the energy and vibe which is there. Right? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
no problem. So, the human soul is Kutsa, he who constantly seeks the seer knowledge. This is what the word Kutsa means. He who constantly seeks the seer knowledge. Again, it is starting with a K sound. And those who are familiar with Sampanananji and the way he teaches, so why the sound K is used for all the questions? Because it is the first consonant.
Yeah.
And that is where the voice first breaks. The vowel is the free flowing sound, right? But when there is a question, what does question mean? It means a speed breaker in your flow of thought process. So similarly, the consonant in the free flow of the sound, consonant, again, see the word consonant, वो भी क से शुरू हो रहा है. So similarly, Kutsa, he who seeks the seer knowledge. Here the emphasis is on the seeker, as his name implies, and he is the son of Arjuna or Arjuni, the white one. Yogesh ji का वो जो point था ना, कि does Arjuna mean a sattvic? And he was anticipating in more clear way, Shri Aurobindo will explain later on what Arjuna means. Child of Svitra, the white mother, all this is from the Veda. He is, that is to say, now the sattvic or purified and light filled soul. You can take this as the definition of the word Arjuna if you want.
Hmm.
The sattvic
So,
or light filled
is
and
Kuta,
purified soul. Sorry,
is Sanskrit Kuta near to Kutsa? Is the same root?
Sanskrit
Kuta, Kuta, Kuta,
Kutaha.
Kutaha and
Kutaha means
Kutsa.
from where?
I mean where? So is this the same root? Because seeker asked
नहीं
where
नहीं
is
नहीं
God,
नहीं
right?
नहीं 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 नहीं
नहीं,
नहीं
yeah,
नहीं कुतः में
नहीं?
फॉर एग्जांपल कुतः में कोई रूट नहीं होता है, इट्स एन इनडिक्लाइनेबल,
अच्छा अच्छा
वो
अच्छा.
अव्यय है. कुत्सा में अगेन रूट नहीं है. देयर आर सम वर्ड्स इन विच देयर आर नो रूट्स. मैक्सिमम वर्ड्स हैव रूट्स, यू आर राइट. मैक्सिमम वर्ड्स हैव अ धातु, बट देयर आर सम वर्ड्स विच आर इनडिक्लाइनेबल, वो एज इट इज ऐसे होते हैं.
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा.
तत् है फॉर एग्जांपल, तत् मींस दैट. तत् का क्या रूट है?
That. हाँ, that is no root. Yeah, but it is that, right?
All these kada, kutra, kutah, ये बाकी जो है किम, कथम, they have no roots,
हाँ,
they are
Katham.
indeclinables.
No, they have no roots. Okay, okay,
हाँ,
good. हाँ,
becoming a little too संस्कृत specific, वो अपना अलग से हम
हाँ,
करते हैं. Let's finish this session first, okay?
ठीक है, sure.
And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, यहाँ पे वो point है about being very careful about whom you choose as, for your company, okay? And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, the own home of Indra, own home के लिए the Vedic this is Swamdamam. Okay, first सूक्ता में ही आता है Vardhamanam Swedame. So the Antaratman, the soul, the psychic being, it is Vardhamanam. It is increasing life after life towards its own home, Swamdamam. Swamdamam is also the supramental. That plane from which it has basically come. That plane of perfect light and consciousness and everything, right? The own home of Indra, the human Kutsa, has grown into such an exact likeness of his divine companion that he can only be distinguished by Sachi. The Hindi word Sach, meaning truth. Okay? Sachi, the wife of Indra, because she is truth conscious. केवल वो पहचान पाती है कि who is Indra and who is Kutsa. But here the point is basically कि company की importance में बता रहा हूँ. Company की importance. If, I mean, especially if you are in yoga, because the forces that become at play, they are very subtle then. You can come under the radar of negative forces also. Don't want to say anything negative, but these are all realities of spiritual life. So one has to choose one's company very carefully. Life companion hua ya constant companion or something like this. But naturally, you will start, people, for example, people who have been married for 30, 40 years, they start looking like each other. I have seen. It is stunning. Oh my God, they are looking like each other. So very careful to choose one's company. You will become the way your company is. वो रामचरितमानस में आता ना, सत्संग वगैरह की इंपॉर्टेंस एंड कंपनी वगैरह की इंपॉर्टेंस, राइट? Anyway, so the parable is evidently of the inner life of man. This is only in the Veda, mind you. Okay, only of the Gita. It is not that. It's applicable to external and outer life also. Okay, the parable is evidently of the inner life of man. It is a figure of the human. Wow, growing into the likeness of the eternal divine. इसको बोलते हैं सादृश्य और साधर्म्य. सदृशम माने उसके जैसा, Sadrishya Mukti. You become like the divine. Sadharmya Mukti. Sadharmya Mukti means one law of being as the divine. This is the goal of the integral yoga. Become like the divine. His nature we must put on as he put ours. What is it? A mutual debt binds man to the supreme. His nature we must put on as he put ours. We are sons of God and must be even as he. His human portion, we must grow divine. Our life is a paradox with God for key. These are kind of this sort of a summary. If you want to say the main teaching of Savitri, what is it? I mean, in that sense, in sense of trans, these 4 or 5 lines can be taken as a sort of rough summary like that. So in growing it is a figure of the human growing into the likeness of the eternal divine by the increasing illumination of knowledge. Okay, but the Gita starts from action, and Arjuna is the man of action and not of knowledge, the fighter, never the seer or the thinker. He's a pragmatic man, he's a practical man. He wants to solve his current problem right now, that of fighting this battle. Okay, so when I had noted the example of Sri Aurobindo for this, another thing which I forgot to say earlier when I mentioned Sri Aurobindo and Krishna and Gita, Sri Aurobindo says, his strength entered into me and I was able to do the sadhana of the Gita. So we have to pray for God's strength to enter into us. Otherwise, I mean, such a profound text as the Gita, we will not really understand unless his strength enters into us. So we have to pray to him and make the necessary inner yogic effort, because without that strength either coming from above or awakening from within, such a powerful text like the Gita, it can't be decoded so easily. We can read it 100 times, but वो समझ नहीं आएगा जब तक भगवान की शक्ति का हमको इनिशिएशन नहीं मिलेगा, which I already said in the beginning. Chanting the Gita verses in a soulful way, in a prayerful way, especially if you memorize them. I'm not saying this because I memorize it only. I got an approval for this from Sampatji. He said it is a very good thing to do it. Gita, if you memorize, it is very good. So especially if you say it from memory, the Shakti that comes, it simply just unlocks that inner being. It is so powerful. We try to do that on Sundays when we have that collective chanting. We are obviously in a very beginning stage. So let's see how it goes. So yeah, this paragraph is done. Now, one important question, are we meeting tomorrow or are we meeting on Friday? Because group में थोड़ा सा division था इस चीज को लेकर के. What is the consensus?
On this, Anmol, one point, because after we finish our session, there are lots of references that come up, and it makes it that much more enjoyable and that much more insightful when, we get a chance to
Do it.
I always view the inputs that you put on the group. So the fact that, the next day session is right after, and there are multiple references and a lot of reading to be done. So it would be nice to have some time to review everything and then be ready for the next one. That is my only input. But I'm fine.
Should we then go for Friday? Because 4 or 5 people, including Shweta and several people, they said that Tuesday they cannot do. Is it okay Friday for everybody?
That will give us more time.
Yes.
Anmol bhai, I would also prefer
Friday.
to
Archana ji?
Friday because
got
of
it.
the same reasons of
Archana ji, is
digestion
it
and
okay?
assimilation.
Yeah, Friday is fine.
Harsh ji? Harshita has said yes. Swati is fine. Who is RG, if I may know?
Ritu.
अच्छा, रितु गांधी. Okay. रितु दी का फ्राइडे का थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है.
It's okay. Friday is okay for me.
अच्छा, Friday is okay for you. Okay. प्रणब दा, आपका तो आज फर्स्ट टाइम ही है. I don't know whether you are even listening or not. Okay. Who else was there? There's somebody. Geeta was there. Okay, that person has disconnected. ठीक है, then we'll resume on Friday.
Great.
Okay.
Anmol, just one question.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
In the Isha
Those who want to
Upanishad,
drop off because of lack of time can drop off. Those who want to stay can stay. Yes, please. Yes, please.
if you remember, in the 8th verse, these 3 terms, out of which the 2 are mentioned here, Kavi, here if you see seer,
Yes, yes.
thinker,
Yes. Never the seer or
and
the
it came
thinker.
to Paribhu Swayambhu.
Kavi
Correct.
Manishi.
So
yes.
this Kavi, so the fact, so is this Kavi Manishri referring to the same 2 things here? saying that he's a man of action?
Yes. What he's saying is that he's neither a kavi nor a manishi. He is simply a man of action. उसको ये पता चलना है कि मैं क्या करूं, मारूं या नहीं मारूं. He's basically not the
Right,
sagely
right.
type. He's not the intellectual. He's a pragmatic and practical man. I might say here कि जो Kuru race है ना, the Kuru race from which Arjuna comes. So Sri Aurobindo comments about it in his notes on the Mahabharata that they were not very, philosophical or this sort in their temperament. They were basically very practical people, and their religion also basically consisted of doing yajna so that they could get earthly or heavenly gains. So they were not very, spiritual minded or very philosophical or seer or that sort of thing. That was not the temperament of their race also. And
Right.
as for
And the
Arjuna, he's
other
a fighter. He's not a seer or thinker. वो ऋषि या कवि या
Right.
मनीषी नहीं है. He's a fighter. हाँ, बोलिए.
Yeah, and the other reference of the Upanishad is the one with the two birds. If you see in that story, also in that parable, the lower bird, as it evolves, it realizes and is one with the bird above,
Yeah.
which is exactly what this story seems to be of this
Yes.
previous.
Yes.
That Indra
Yes.
is that
Yes.
fullness of knowledge, and Sachi
Yes.
is aware
Yes.
that it is that one reality. So it
Yes.
seems to be referring to exactly the same
ये जो
evolution of the two
ये जो
birds,
आप
right?
बोल रहे हैं ना, this symbolic companionship of Arjuna and Krishna, etc. So this is referred to in the last paragraph of the last chapter, and there this example of Indra and Kutsa is given, and along with that the example of Nara and Narayana, and that of the two birds on the tree, and Arjuna and Krishna is the fourth example in this series. So they all basically represent the same thing. Oh, Yogesh is there. हाँ, he's
Okay.
there. Okay. Yeah. Fine.
So one thing which I
Yes.
just wanted in a
Yes.
earlier chapter,
Ah.
there is this temporal component and the permanent
First chapter
component.
mate is there. Yes.
First chapter mate is there. So
Yes.
this part we can say is bit the temporal component, not
Yeah,
the
exactly.
physical
Exactly.
part,
This is a bit of
right?
the temporal component.
Because if you take the present evolution,
But
I mean,
उसमें भी
after
not that temporal actually, because the qualifications that he is having, Arjuna is having as a sattvic and purified and light-filled soul, we also need to have in order to be recipients for the teaching of the Gita. So we can't really call it just temporarily applicable like that.
No. So I was about to say that, like Arjun, we also, I mean, at least I can't generalize, but at least I can talk about myself. Action precedes clarity, right? Because many a times, not in everything, but in many a things, it
Let's
does
switch on
happen
your
that,
video if you like. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just in
Acha.
my night dress, but
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. हाँ.
okay. So all I'm saying is that action precedes clarity. So even when we do, even today, right? At least in some of the things, yes, you do think a lot before you're doing it, but some of the things are just you're caught off guard, where I think, especially in things where one has to evolve, the dimensions in which one has to evolve, action precedes clarity, and we don't get the full meaning of action until it is complete, and look back, oh, this connecting the dots, so this was meant for this. That realization is still, I mean, so in that sense, we are also in that stage also, but partly in some different states and so on and so forth. Just a comment I'm trying to make. Yeah.
Right. So Himanshu ji, the session is
Anmol,
actually from 8 to 9. आपको join करने में थोड़ा late हो गया, and the next session will be on Friday, and I think that is what is fixed basically in the WhatsApp group discussion group. It says this group description Monday and Tuesday, but now it is fixed for Monday and Friday 8 to 9 p.m.
ठीक है.
Okay. Yes, Yogesh ji.
Yeah, Anmol, if you see the last line, it ends by saying Arjun is the man of action and not of knowledge, the fighter, never the seer or the thinker. If we just introspect and look at our engagement with life, what it's also saying is that if you look at it, there are so many things that we feel are maybe or people who are unethical, or if you look at our things and we possibly look away, rather than, face it with eyes at it. If you look at your own personal journey, this aspect of the divine being within, and then engaging to follow the work of right or righteousness, what has been your journey there? Because at the end of the day, what this book is saying is that the world is going to be filled with negative forces, but the power
Not
of
filled, but they are
divinity
there.
within us to engage.
Not filled, there is the divine also in the world. Yes, but they are there and you have to account for them.
Right.
It's not that that would be to have a pessimistic view of creation. They are there, but the divine forces are also equally there. And above them all, the Supreme is there all the time, upholding and taking his creation forward.
True, true.
Yeah. What was your question? I didn't understand, sir.
Yeah, so the question was that what we are, because it says he's a man of action, it is giving us guidance to act in the world, right? That
Yes.
at every given stage, what I was trying to say is that there is perfection
It is
in
giving
every
you-
second.
it is
because
giving
the
you
universe
guidance.
is the Lord.
It is giving you guidance as to what the Supreme wants you to do in the world and for the world.
Right, right.
By uniting your will with the Supreme will, of course, it cannot happen overnight or in a short span of time. It can also happen. I mean, Savitri mein lines hai that if this is she of whom the world has heard, then wonder no more at any happen change. So if you become open to the mother, then she can do anything. There is no limit to her omnipotence. But basically, that union of the individual will with the divine will happens progressively. And one has to want it. One has to aspire for it persistently, then only will it happen. And first of all, one has to recognize the importance and the divinity behind works. The problem with the Indian mind is कि वो बुद्धिस्ट का और सन्यास का इतना घुसा हुआ है अपने अंदर कि we don't even think that action is important in the first place. I mean, a significant
True.
part of our being does not even believe in action. We think that yoga is synonymous with sannyasa. And it is changing, but it has not completely changed. So that is why I also, when I get the opportunity, I try to emphasize on action, taking the cue from Sri Aurobindo.
Very true.
So anyway. Shall we close?
Yeah.
Shall we close? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Rather-
Let us meet on Friday, 8 p.m.
Yes, sir.
All right.